And I was like, oh my gosh, I can go through my travel photography, right? Just my photographs in general, make them into postcards, and then sell them to people who want art or want postcards, and then donate those proceeds. And at the same time, that's this like win mutual benefit, right? Where people get art to take home, and then I'm able to donate, and I'm also feeling fulfillment because I'm creating a community, I'm creating connections. And I guess like the medium that I chose to be postcards was because firstly, I'm super, I guess, old school in some ways, and I love writing cards to my friends, but also in a time when people couldn't travel, postcards could, right? And there was such a wave of like people doing Zoom calls and all these web calls to reconnect with friends, and which was so beautiful and so amazing, and I loved it. But also a text remains with you for maybe a week, but a postcard you'll keep forever. And so I wanted to bring that back to the sincere connection alongside the hyper digitization and virtual world that we are finding ourselves in. And so yeah, I just ideated this like crazy, dove deep into the creative hole of curating all these sets, like editing them, choosing which ones I really wanted to represent like a city or a country, designing the website, creating the logo with a friend. The whole process was so fulfilling.
Hi everyone, welcome to Now Boarding, a new travel podcast by me, Payal Nair. This show aims at creating awareness about ecotourism, sustainable tourism, responsible travel, and a lot more. We will cover stories and journeys of people who are ecotourism specialists and those who are leaders in their field. We will also be talking to people who have had unique travel experiences, remarkable conceptual places to stay, unexplored cultures, and ancient histories of various towns and cities around the world. Join me in this journey of knowing more about travel. Get inspired to see the world and discover your inner self. Hi everyone. Today I am in conversation with Kah Mun Chan. Kah Mun pursues both sustainability and the creative arts in a complementary way. She's dedicated her career to the climate movement. She's worked at various organizations to learn about sustainability from different angles, such as supply chain, capacity building, nature-based programs, and decarbonization. Currently, Kah Mun works at a French energy management and digital automation multinational called Schneider Electric, and she's in the Sustainability Leadership Program. But I can't just stop here because there's so much more to share about Kah Mun. So I'm going to try and do this very quickly because I really appreciate all that you do, Kah Mun. And I think it's important for all our listeners and viewers to get to understand that. So you celebrate beauty of nature and shared humanity through photography and videography. Oh my God. Okay. Last but not the least, Kah Mun is also a We Got This Year 2 alumnus, and she is the We Got This Year 3 MC, and I can completely understand why. And I just want to add a little bit about WWF, which is where this We Got This sort of program actually started. And it's a youth-led incubator empowering a generation of sustainability advocates on social media. Thank you so much for joining me today, Kah Mun.
It's my absolute pleasure, Payal. Thank you for having me. I'm really happy to join you on this conversation. And I love what Melting Pot represents and holds, and all this diversity of voices for a positive impact, and all these conversations that you are holding. It's so wonderful to be part of your initiative. So yeah, thank you for having me here and for that wonderful introduction. I am still learning in all ways. So
I
yeah.
know, but I think at such a young age for you to have been able to incorporate so much in your life and the passion that you have for both creativity as well as sustainability speaks volumes. And I know that you're going to go really far with this. And I also wanted to add that I am, yes, Melting Pot, but I also have another show, Now Boarding, and you're actually going to be, and you are being interviewed for Now Boarding, which
Oh,
is focused on sustainability, exactly
yeah.
what you do, and ecotourism and wildlife conservation. So that's really the focus of
Yeah.
Now Boarding. And I think absolutely fit into that.
Thank
So
you. I also love the name Now Boarding. I feel like it holds so much excitement and anticipation. It's like almost the beginning of your next journey, right? So that's really cool that you're having, yeah, conversations to spur what can we start, what can we begin to solve problems, to meet needs, to fill in gaps. Like Now Boarding, yeah, that's a really nice name.
yes, as a podcast, whatever impact that we can have
Mm.
through this platform is what the agenda is, and which is why I decided to also set up another podcast show. And thank you for, I didn't really think of it that way, but now it makes a lot more sense with the name of the show. So it's not about me, it's not about now boarding, it's about you. So can you tell us a little bit about your background and your expertise in sustainability and creativity? And how did you actually get interested in trying to bring in an intersection between the two?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd say it's hard to describe yourself in a few words, but I guess if I really had to boil it down, I would just say, yeah, I am a sustainability advocate and a creative storyteller. I think art has just always been part of me and my DNA from young. I've always been that girl who's tinkering in many different art forms, from like ceramics to drawing to painting, and being really hands-on, being very crafty, and then pursuing art in my like extracurriculars in primary school, and then eventually going to School of the Arts for my pre-tertiary education, where I pursued visual arts and design and multimedia. And then from there, discovered my love for film. And so I switched to film in my final years in SOTA, and I pursued that in the International Baccalaureate Diploma program in IBDP. And so I think art has always been just a very natural way for me to explore and express my thoughts, and sometimes break out of that rigidity of language or rationality, right? Sometimes you just want to move or flow or paint or express. And I feel like art has always been that outlet for me. And not just something visual, I also write a lot. And even through music, through dance, I think all these forms of embodying an emotion and embodying thought, I consider to be art. So I think that has just, yeah, truly been always a part of my personality and the way that I navigate with the world and the way that I engage with my surroundings. And in terms of sustainability, I think my story in that began maybe subconsciously when I started volunteering overseas in countries like Cambodia during my time schooling with School of the Arts. And some of the activities that we did was to build like concrete wells for the communities and in the villages that we were visiting and teaching at. And I think that kind of subconsciously exposed me to the fact that while in Singapore, it's so easy to have a washing machine and to hang your clothes to dry, and like these villages before having that concrete pavement would not be able to really wash their clothes in, for example, rainy season, because there would be no space on the ground that was, not muddy, for example, right? And I think that kind of understanding and exposure then led and built up like naturally when I was in university, and being exposed to a lot of these ideas in a more structured and academic way. And then I participated in lots of internships and a lot of programs and also classes such as Ecotopia. And I can talk about more about that later, but I think that kind of formalized my insight and understanding that sustainability is the only and the most important thing that I should be dedicating my energies into, because this is the only planet we have, right? This is the mission of all of us. And so that is why I guess my way of finding intersection between my ways of expression and my ways of processing through art, and then my intellectual but also very emotional understanding that this planet needs our protection and we need to be doing a better job. That's how it
So
came
do
together.
you think that sustainability and the arts actually complement each other?
Absolutely. I mean, how they always say that complex challenges need creative solutions. You cannot be solving a problem within the same box of tools that created that problem, right? And so, yes, I think creativity and art and sustainability is very complementary, because you need creativity to think of new ideas, and you need art to be able to communicate why, and then the reasoning and the persuasion behind it, right? I think that's how you rally people around a cause. And so, no, I think it's extremely complementary.
And what are some of the projects that you have personally worked on
Mhm.
to actually bring, and where you feel like your storytelling, whether it's been visual or you mentioned that you also write, is there some kind of examples that you could share where you've actually seen, because there is a lot of conversation around creativity and sustainability not really complementing each other. So how can you counter that with you personally having done some projects or having worked with different organizations or whatever it is that you may have done in order to actually be able to bring the two together?
Yeah, absolutely. That's such a good question to like show tangibly what are some ways that these two come hand in hand. Before I describe my projects more in detail, I also like to share that I am daily surrounded by amazing peers that I'm inspired by who are also doing this work, who are truly dedicated in this space and in this field, and who are constantly every day doing the creative work to make complex science digestible, sharing that, making it accessible with the audience, with the mass audience. So I think I don't act in a vacuum, right? I am embedded in a community of creators and advocates and storytellers. And I feel very lucky to be able to count them as people, as my cheerleaders, my inspirations, and my supporters. And yeah, I feel I can totally share like links and names with you later on, so your audience can also get to know them. I think one project that I will share with you, but this question is actually behind me right here. So these are actually my photos. The one here was taken in Bali on the top of Mount Batu, and the one here was taken in India. I was in Missouri on a week-long trip to learn about the One Planetary Health Principle and biodiversity at the foothills of the Himalayas. And these two pictures actually belong to my project called Highlight Falls. So Highlight Falls is a photography social impact initiative that I began in 2020 during COVID. I was moving out of university after graduating, and it was just this time of pure chaos, right? When the world was like grappling with COVID breaking out and nobody knew what was going on, the timeline of things. And so I deeply wanted to be doing something and to help and contribute, but I didn't want to just be like donating money kind of one way transactionally, right? And so I was thinking and thinking, and I was like, what can I do that's uniquely me, that I can contribute impact and bring value to people? And I was like, oh my gosh, I can go through my travel photography, right? Just my photographs in general, make them into postcards, and then sell them to people who want art or want postcards, and then donate those proceeds. And at the same time, that's just like win mutual benefit, right? Where people get art to take home, and then I'm able to donate, and I'm also feeling fulfillment because I'm creating a community, I'm creating connections. And I guess like the medium that I chose to be postcards was because firstly, I'm super, I guess, old school in some ways, and I love writing cards to my friends, but also in a time when people couldn't travel, postcards could, right? And there was such a wave of like people doing Zoom calls and all these web calls to reconnect with friends, and which was so beautiful and so amazing. And I loved it. But also a text remains with you for maybe a week, but a postcard you'll keep forever. And so I wanted to bring that back to the sincere connection alongside the hyper digitization and virtual world that we are finding ourselves in. And so yeah, I ideated this like crazy, dove deep into the creative hole of curating all these sets, like editing them, choosing which ones I really wanted to represent like a city or a country, designing the website, creating the logo with a friend. The whole process was so fulfilling. And then when I finally launched it, yeah, it was so well received from my friends and strangers. And then I did more booths, like market booths with collective community spaces. And through those booths, which I think I enjoyed tremendously, is because you get to meet so many people, you get to talk to them, you get to tell them about your idea. I think that was something so special to me. And I've met many, many great friends as well. And then you get to collaborate. I've collaborated with local artists, I've collaborated with local brands. Oh, also the three pillars that I'm donating to are climate action, gender equality, and social justice. So I've been picking out different organizations in Singapore to donate to. And with some of them, we even managed to go further to hold like separate partnerships and separate fundraiser campaigns, like just through postcards. So I think it's so beautiful to see how when you put yourself out there in terms of, for example, your art or your idea, there will always be a hand to receive that. And then there's always going to be a way for someone to come in with their idea and their half to amplify that and make it more than the sum of its parts. Yeah, that's one project that I was involved in. I could mention more maybe later.
I want to know a little bit more about how you got involved with the We Got This
Yeah.
program, because what was there, like a screening process? How did you get involved in it to become a part of it in year two? And what
Yeah.
is it that you contributed?
Yeah, absolutely. I love this question because I feel like my involvement with We Got This has been very full circle. So I actually saw the open call for it in the year one edition, its first edition, but I was very busy with my projects and with my job at the point of time, and so I didn't have the capacity to join it at the moment. But I did very clearly remember seeing it and being like, that is such an interesting course and opportunity. And then the second year it happened, it just so happened that I had left my place at Enterprise Singapore and I was on basically like a creative gap year, right? I was traveling for 6 months, I was backpacking, and then I was also being like freelance artist and creating with my art collectives back here in Singapore and building community. And so this was actually, I saw it while I was traveling. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I finally had the capacity. Let me just try. So I applied and I got in and got selected to be part of the year two cohort. And it was so interesting because then it was fully virtual as well because of COVID, which is great because I was like taking in the calls from like Frankfurt and London and in Sweden. It was very fun to have this opportunity and have this community follow you around. And yeah, We Got This has been a really good program in terms of really creating and providing that structured, conducive space for learning. And not only do they provide extremely well curated like programs of experts and advocates in the field who are like super active, super respected. I was almost like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they are like getting these people and they were speaking to us right here on our computers. It was so crazy to be able to like directly ask them Q&A, like people that you really respect and that are truly inspirational. And then also a lot of ask me anything sessions and like workbooks to like reflect and do. There's a lot of homework, right? It's not just, oh,
Yeah,
let you
of
listen to these
course.
talks.
Yeah.
Like they wanted us to be involved. There was a lot of like everyday accountability. So while they also provide a lot of resource, there's also a lot of accountability. And with anything, it's how much you put in is how much you take out. So I think that was a very beautiful course. And over the course of the master classes, all the presentations, the panels and everything, you really learn more about like the whole potential of like digital advocacy and using social media as a platform and as a amplifier for messages that need to be heard, right? How do you break down complex science? How do you motivate people? How do you create a community? How do you engage them into with the call to action? So I think all of that was things that I learned from them. And then again, full circle because coming back in as they were going to their third year, they actually so kindly invited me to be their host and MC, which is just like such a thrill. I had so
And
much
I'm
fun.
not surprised why.
I had so much fun and to be on the other side and to be able to connect with the participants in so many ways because we were similar in age and I did the program last year was just so incredible. And this time I was in person. So it was just amazing to feel that collective effervescence. And we had a lot of delegates join us from like different countries in ASEAN as well. So they brought such like a different flavor of like background, motivations, concerns, like everyone like different SDGs that they were like tackling because even within Southeast Asia, like the realities are so disparate. And so it was really inspirational and motivational to also see the zest and the ideas, and not just that, but the progress that some of the delegates from ASEAN have already achieved and bringing to the table here was just incredible. So I think it was awesome to see the program be improved and to offer like an in-person incubation and then a panel pitching moment at the end. I think it's just amazing for like you, an amazing opportunity for youth to go through this. Yeah, so
It's
I'm really
encouragement, it's opportunity. It
honored.
also gives, and especially the young, it
Yeah.
gives, and the fact that you're able to actually link up and be able to speak to so many people who've already got the experience and then to learn from them as well and to learn from each other is
Absolutely, yeah.
also something which I think is, yeah, very, very, it's incredible from whatever I read about the
Mhm.
program. And I have spoken to someone else who was a part of, I don't know whether she was a part of your
Mhm.
cohort or a year first year. I'm not sure, I don't remember, but it was very interesting talking to her as well. But yeah, no, I am so happy that we were able to have this conversation. And before I let you go, just some advice that you can offer individuals who are actually looking at becoming more informed and more active in promoting sustainability, wherever they may be, whichever part of the world, and whatever aspect of sustainability.
Advice would be maybe like 3 points. I think first is to, in terms of, yeah, I think advice in terms of navigating and engaging with yourself and your own patterns of thought, as well as your audience and your community, would be number one, to be aware of your own patterns, your own motivations, your own story. Really understand why and who is it about you that makes you the right person to speak about this, right? What is that internal link? Be aware of where you're coming from, be aware of how your words may be landing to other people. And then linked to that is to be intentional with the energy that you're putting out, be intentional with the words and the visuals and the vibes, right? Because as much as it's like a Gen Z term, like it's so true, like the emotion through your communication is going to attract a different type of audience, right? So I think be really intentional in the energy that you're putting out, whether it's all about like stubborn optimism or whether you're all about doomism, you're going to be attracting a different crowd of people. So being aware of your motivations, being intentional with your energy, and then number three, to be sincere. I think in a time of social media, there's a lot of comparison that goes on, and at the end of the day, while numbers could mean you reach more people, for example, it doesn't always, it's not proportional to the quality of the impact, for example, right? So I think don't worry too much about that. Be sincere in your creations because you believe in it and because you love it and because it's your passion and because you know that even if it impacts one person, it is enough, because then you have done something, you've created something outside of you.
And that one
Ripple
person
of
will
change.
take it to the next person.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. And that's how you build a community. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Ripple of change. Believing that you are never too small to create a positive impact within first yourself and then your circle and then your community and then larger from there. So always have hope and be sincere.
Always have hope. Absolutely. That it's just been such a fun conversation. Thank you so
Likewise.
much.
Thank you,
Thank
Payal.
you. I really enjoyed talking to you, Kah
Oh
Mun,
my God.
and more
Thank you.
power to you.
Oh,
And I'm pretty certain that you're absolutely in the right direction. And I'm going to see a lot more and hear a lot more about you. So I really appreciate this time. Thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed this episode of Now Boarding, a travel podcast. Check out other episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever else you listen to podcasts. And of course, don't forget to share your thoughts with us. Stay tuned for more exciting episodes only on Now Boarding, a travel podcast.